I never meant to invade her privacy. If I could go back to that rainy Friday afternoon, I would leave the old leather journal exactly where it was. I would walk away, finish cleaning the apartment, and never discover the words that changed my life forever. Because once I saw my own name written across that page, there was no pretending I hadn't. And once I read the first sentence, I realized the one person I thought I knew better than anyone had been carrying a secret heavy enough to break both our hearts. I wish Ethan would look at me the way he looks at sunsets. My hands froze. The room around me disappeared. I had spent 10 years calling Emma my best friend. 10 years laughing over late-night pizza, helping each other through breakups, celebrating promotions, crying through family losses, and insisting to everyone around us that we were just friends. Apparently, only one of us had been telling the truth. Or maybe neither of us had. The rain tapped softly against the apartment windows while guilt settled deep inside my chest. I shouldn't have read another word. But I did. The next pages weren't dramatic declarations or fantasy love stories. They were quiet confessions. She wrote about the first day we met in college when I noticed she was eating lunch alone and asked if I could join her. She wrote about how I stayed with her all night after her father passed away because she didn't want to be alone in that silent hospital waiting room. She remembered every little thing I had forgotten. The blue hoodie I lent her during a football game. The road trip where we sang terrible country songs until sunrise. The birthday cake I accidentally dropped before buying another one without telling anyone. The coffee orders. The inside jokes. The tiny moments that seemed ordinary to me but had become priceless memories for her. Then I reached the final sentence on the page. If he ever finds this journal, I hope he never hates me for loving him. I closed the notebook immediately. My chest hurt. Not because Emma loved me. Because she'd carried that love alone for years, believing silence was kinder than risking our friendship. That thought hurt more than anything. I carefully placed the journal exactly where I'd found it. She returned home 30 minutes later carrying grocery bags and wearing her usual smile. "There you are," she said. "I bought your favorite cookies." My favorite cookies. Of course she had. I smiled back, trying to act normal, but suddenly every ordinary thing she did felt different. Not fake. Just, filled with meaning I'd never noticed before. Over the next week, I couldn't stop thinking about what I'd read. Every memory replayed differently. The way she'd always remembered important dates. The way she defended me whenever someone criticized me. How she'd never complained when I canceled plans because I was exhausted from work. How she celebrated my relationships even though they must have broken her heart a little each time. She had never asked me to choose her. She simply chose kindness instead. That realization made me question something uncomfortable. Had I really never noticed? Or had I been afraid to? A few days later my sister, Olivia, invited me to dinner. She took one look at my face and laughed. "You look like someone who's trying to solve a murder." "I've just been thinking." Dangerous. I told her everything. Well, almost everything. I admitted I'd accidentally seen something personal and now couldn't stop wondering whether I'd misunderstood my own feelings. Olivia listened quietly. Finally she asked one simple question. "When something good happens, who's the first person you want to tell?" "Emma." "When life falls apart?" "Emma." "When you're proud?" "Emma." "When you're scared?" "Emma." She smiled. "Congratulations." "For what?" "You've been in love with your best friend for years." I nearly laughed. "No." She leaned across the table. "Ethan, you've dated wonderful women. Every relationship ended for the same reason." I frowned. "What reason?" "You compared them to Emma without realizing it." I started to argue. Then I stopped. Because she was right. Every girlfriend had eventually asked some version of the same question. Why does your best friend always come first? At the time, I thought they were being jealous. Maybe they were seeing something I couldn't. That night I barely slept. Not because I was confused. Because I finally wasn't. The problem wasn't whether Emma loved me. The problem was whether she still wanted to. After carrying feelings alone for so many years, maybe she'd already accepted they would never be returned. Maybe telling her now would only reopen old wounds. For 3 days I said nothing. Then life made the decision for me. Emma's mother suffered a mild stroke. She wasn't in danger, but Emma rushed to her hometown immediately. I drove 4 hours after work without calling first. When I arrived at the hospital waiting room, she looked exhausted. The moment she saw me, her shoulders relaxed. You came. Of course. You didn't have to. I wanted to. She hugged me harder than she ever had before. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Her mother recovered quickly. The doctors expected a full recovery. That night, after everyone finally went home, Emma and I sat outside the hospital watching the stars. I've been thinking a lot lately, she said quietly. So have I. She laughed softly. That's usually dangerous. I looked at her. There were dark circles under her eyes. She looked tired. Brave. Beautiful. Completely unaware that she'd become the center of my world long before I admitted it. I almost lost Mom today. I know. It makes you realize life is shorter than we pretend. I nodded. She stared at the parking lot. I don't want to spend my life wondering about things I never had the courage to say. My heart raced. She continued before I could answer. So thank you. For what? For being my best friend. The words sounded strangely final. As if she had decided friendship would always be enough. I couldn't let that happen. Emma. She looked at me. I need to tell you something. She smiled nervously. What? I found your journal. The color disappeared from her face. Silence. Complete silence. I'm sorry, I said immediately. I wasn't trying to read it. It fell open. I saw my name, and I made the worst decision of my life. Her eyes filled with tears. You read it. I did. I'm so embarrassed. You don't have to be. I never wanted you to know. I know. She stood up. I think I should go. Please don't. She stopped walking but didn't turn around. I don't want your pity. It's not pity. Then what is it? I took a deep breath. The journal didn't make me fall in love with you. She slowly turned back toward me. It made me realize I already was. She stared at me as though I were speaking another language. I don't understand. I kept asking myself why every important memory in my life included you. She didn't speak. I realized every version of my future that made me happy also included you. Still nothing. My sister figured it out before I did. A tiny laugh escaped through her tears. That sounds like Olivia. I've spent years looking for someone who made me feel the way you do. My voice shook. The truth is, nobody could. Emma covered her mouth. I thought I was protecting our friendship. You were. I accepted you'd never love me. I know. I even prayed that one day these feelings would disappear. I smiled gently. I'm really glad that prayer wasn't answered. She laughed through tears. I can't believe this. Neither can I. She walked toward me slowly. So, you're saying? I'm saying I love the woman who remembers my favorite cookies. She smiled. The woman who stays when life gets messy. She stepped closer. The woman who spent years choosing kindness over selfishness. Now she was standing inches away. I love my best friend. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I've wanted to hear those words for so long. I know. You really read the journal. I really did. She laughed again before gently punching my shoulder. I should be mad. You probably should. But I'm too happy. For the first time in 10 years, I kissed her. It wasn't dramatic. There were no fireworks. No cheering crowds. Just two people who had already spent years loving each other in different ways finally finding the courage to love each other honestly. Months later, Emma gave me the journal as a birthday gift. I think it belongs to both of us now, she said. I opened to the last page. She had written one final entry. Today Ethan asked me to marry him. I looked up. You knew I'd say yes before I answered? She grinned. I hoped. I turned the page. There was another note underneath. Love isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the person who quietly stays beside you through ordinary days until one extraordinary moment changes everything. Years have passed since then. The journal sits on a bookshelf in our living room. We still laugh about how I accidentally discovered its secret. Our children love asking how we met. Emma always tells them we became best friends first. Then she smiles at me. And that's why kindness matters, she says. Real love doesn't begin with grand speeches or perfect timing. It begins with showing up, again and again, without expecting anything in return. She's right. The greatest love story of my life didn't start with a first date. It started with one lonely college student sharing a lunch table with another. Everything beautiful that followed grew from that simple act of kindness. Sometimes the person meant to change your life is already standing beside you, cheering for your happiness even when it costs them their own. And sometimes, if you're fortunate enough to recognize that quiet love before it's too late, you discover that your best friend has been your home all along.